Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Marlene Fernandez, Luxury Engagement Manager for Coldwell Banker. I'm here today with Ricardo Rodriguez, Coldwell Banker Real Estate Agent for the Boston area and Global Luxury Ambassador for the Coldwell Banker Global Luxury Program. How are you doing today, Ricardo?
Marlene, always so great to see you.
Likewise, I was reading your bio and I am so impressed with your list of accolades. I just want to mention a few. You have over 16 years in real estate. You've been among the elite in the luxury real estate space. You've been awarded top agent by volume in the US and top team in the Northeast. I mean, these are just a few. Uh, what has been your path to success and what role has your Hispanic roots play in getting there?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to speak with you today, and thank you for all of those accolades. It makes me a little blushy, but thank you for thank you for mentioning that. I To answer your question, I think that being Latino, being Hispanic, has everything to do with what I have been able to. The flavor that I have been given to my business. I again, I'm not generalizing here, but I think that we as Latinos, as Hispanics, we're very early on taught to be entrepreneurial and resilient. And so that's one part of that. The other part of that is that I understood very early on that I was kind of like my biggest asset, that who I am is my biggest asset, and that I have to make sure that I could weave who I am as a strong part of my value proposition of what I bring to my clients. Obviously, I've encountered situations in which people have tried to make who I am, my Latino self, into not so much of an asset, but I have discovered that that is actually on them. There is no reason for me to explain who I am. There is no reason for me to explain what I bring to the table. I demonstrated. I demonstrated in my work. I demonstrated on my service to my clients. I demonstrated in my production. I demonstrated in the way in which I am committed to making sure that this, not only my own business is good, but as many people as possible, their businesses are good, and that this industry continues to change for the better and continues to commit to that diversity, and that my clients receive the best services, the best service that I can provide. But it is that understanding of who I am that really brings into kind of like a full circle the value proposition that I bring to my clients, because it's not just about the logistics of what I can do, but it is about how I do those things. I think you've heard me say before, Marlene, real estate, it's to some extent an A to Z kind of like business, right? You go from A to B to C to D. Is what you do in between that makes the difference. Is what I do in between A and B that makes the difference. Between B and C that makes the difference. And so that is part of my value proposition. That's part of what I do and is in who I am. And all these things that I bring into the table, my skin color, my accent, my backstory, all of those things are part of it and are part of how I provide that service to all of my clients. My story, it's mine. I own it. You've heard before. I came into this country from Colombia with 25 bucks in my pocket. I with no English and no college degree, all those things. And so all of that, it's part of what I bring to the table. All of that is part of that story. It's part of my value proposition, and it connects people to it. Some people will not connect with that, and that is fine. But there are a lot of people who not only empathize with my story, but actually do see a value in my story as it relates to their business, because it shows not only my entrepreneurial spirit, but it shows my dedication to getting things done, my creativity, and my commitment to the business. And I think that acknowledging my Latino, my Hispanic self, it's proven to be good for my own value proposition, and hence for my own business. Do I make sense?
Like you
I don't know. I
Yes, it does. It's
I
about
talk so much,
connecting those
Marlene.
dots. I don't know. It's about connecting those dots. And that's why you have been able to be so successful in the luxury space. How do you break into it? Like, how do you start?
Well, again, thank you for the nice accolade.
Mm.
I take my success in a very humble manner. It's my own, and I'm happy about that. It obviously takes kind of like a village to do the work that we all do. But it applies to kind of like your question in the sense that you need to start somewhere, in not just in terms of the luxury market segment. I would say that is a question that I get asked for people who are just starting the business. You said, how do you enter into the businesses? And the answer is really it's simplistic, but I think it is depth in the sense that it's an action answer, and it is you need to start. You need to procure yourself that opportunity to do it, and you're not going to do that by waiting for it to happen. You have to really, everything that you do, and every you have to be strategic about the way in which you are conducting your business, so that it opens those opportunities to be in front into whatever that market segment you're trying to get in front of is. I you've heard me tell the story about my entry into new construction. I always loved new construction, and I thought that was going to be like one of my primary niche markets. And what I did is I set up an interview with every developer that would take that interview, and 99% of them laughed me out of their offices. But there was one group that called me a few months later and said, you know what, you did your thing, we want to give you this business. And that was my first building on my first year in the business. And by the way, these are the same clients, that the same people right now that were my first clients are my biggest clients right now, because we've all grown kind of like together. But is that how I enter into the luxury market segment? It is really asking for it. As we know, real estate is a very sphere of influence based kind of like business, and so I ask people to ask around and give me notices about opportunities, and I went into those listing presentations, and eventually I got one, and it was a great listing. We broke a record with it. It was a record for years in terms of the most expensive condo in that neighborhood. But it required to ask for it, which I think is the most important thing. You've heard me said before, Marlene. I come from a background, an acting background, and so when you go, if I'm trying to get into the next movie, and I know that it's going to take me 10 auditions before I get the big role, I am going to hurry up on those auditions so that I can get to the big role. It's the same thing here. If we knew how many listing presentations we have to go in order to get that first a luxury listing, or how many conversations you have to have before you get your first luxury buyer, you will hurry up and do them. And so, yes, get a strategic, get out there, ask for the business, get in front of people. The worst people can say to you is no. And you learn from those no's, because it allows you to continue to work and to finesse what your messaging is and what your value proposition is. I think that is the way to really break into it, to be active about it. The second thing, and I alluded to that on your first question, Marlene, is to have a very clear value proposition. You need to know what you're bringing to the table. I would say to you that in the luxury market segment is a very tight market segment, because there are less properties. There are more properties in lower price points, if you look at it kind of like as a pyramid. And the people that you are competing for those, for those few luxury listings, are pretty much always the same people. And so I always say, understand who your competition is. Learn what is it that they do, how they do it, so that your own value proposition is different, and is specific to who you are, that is organic to you, and that creates for you a point of differentiation. So really, really understanding that, I think it is really important. What is your value? What is it that you bring to the table that is different from your competitors? It gives you that edge on the business. So again, just go for it. Know what you're saying. know what your value proposition. And then the last thing that I think is the most important thing is understand that luxury has nothing to do with price point. There are a lot of expensive things out there that are not luxurious. And so luxury is an experience. Luxury is experiential. And so your commitment to that market segment doesn't start with your commitment to a price point. It starts with your commitment to the experience you're providing to your clients. And it should be an experience that is seamless regardless of what price point you're working in. There should be no difference between your entry level buyer or seller and your high end buyer or seller. It should be no difference in terms of what you are providing. Obviously, when you're looking at listings on the higher end of the scale, they tend to require more resources and a more that and a higher variety of tools in order to market and to promote the property. But for the most part, your deliverables in terms of what you're offering to those clients should just be consistent, because luxury again has nothing to do with that price. Luxury is subjective and luxury is experiential, and so you want to make it into that experience. I remember clients from 16 years ago that I sold in their first home, a one bedroom in the city, and now they are looking at stuff that is in the multi-million dollar range. And so your clients grow with you, but your clients will stay with you if they feel that what you're providing to them is consistent, and it has to do with that white glove service and that very elevated level of and quality of service that you provide. So again, I would encourage you to really reconsider thinking that the luxury market has to do with price. The luxury market has to do with experience, because it's really, really experiential. Those prices come with it. They will come eventually. They will start appearing if the way in which you conduct your business, and if your brand and if your value proposition align with those principles of an elevated level of service.
Yes, I mean, some interesting topics you brought there, and it's about, you said, your value proposition, and it's not, and luxury is not just about, like you said, about pricing. It's about the type of white glove service you offer. And that's why, as a proud Hispanic and homeowner myself, I love hearing how Hispanic homeowners are driving home ownership. Why do you think this is? And what do you think we can do to continue helping these buyers get the support they need?
Well, we've been Hispanics, Latinos. We have been here for longer than we're given credit, right? We've been here for
Yes.
generations. To some of us, this was our ancestral land, and so I think that this despite kind of like whatever political rhetoric shows up sometimes out there, I think that we need to understand that we are certainly a growing population segment. It's a segment that really values home ownership. I think I was talking to you one day, Marlene, and I said I remember growing up. People own in Colombia. People own their little plot of land, and they might have had a little shack in there, but they own their piece of land, and there was high level of pride on that home ownership. And I think we take that kind of like ancestrally and culturally into that. So we are very proud of home ownership, and I think it is our role as real estate agents to really encourage our fellow Latino home buyers, Latino Hispanic home buyers, to engage on that homeownership process for two reasons. One, because it is really how you can amass wealth that is multi-generational, right? If you look at some of the current, wealth gap between, let's say, whites and minorities, a good chunk of that wealth, it's in the form of transfer real estate. And so we need to really speak to our clients about the importance of real estate as a long-term investment, not as a cash flow situation. I understand that there are opportunities in which you could buy a property and make adjustments and then sell it and make a couple of bucks, but that is cash flow. When we are talking about really building wealth, wealth is built with patience and is built, in the long term. And so I think that having that conversation about being strategic, I think is really important. The other part, and I know we do it, which is one of the reasons I actually do, I love NAHREP's messaging around this, is that home ownership is about responsible home ownership. It's about really exploring all your possibilities, having a plan in place so that it's not random and potentially risky in the long term, but just encouraging our clients to adhere to a plan, to have a plan as to how they're going to get into the game of home ownership that is responsible and attainable and sustainable. I think that if anything that we are seeing right now, this post or this COVID situation, is that there is a lot of housing instability, and so we really now more than ever need to talk to people about making those, if it is an option for them to make those homeownership decisions in a manner that is sustainable and responsible. But again, I think that the message about wealth building through real estate is one of the most important messages, and I know that NAHREP adheres to that. But I think sometimes we forget about it because our clients are watching HGTV and they're buying, and you see them. Somebody buys a house, changes the toilet, and suddenly it's $1 million. It's TV. We know it's not. We know it's not true. And so we need to really talk to people and be like, that is made for. That's a script. And so in reality, this is how it works. And in reality, if you wanted to build real wealth, it's going to require time. Unless you win the lottery, most people take a while to build some wealth, and it's a strategic process. And so to tell people that this should be part of a long-term strategy, I think is paramount, and I think is really, 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 really important. Yeah.
So, on the same subject, knowing that Hispanic home ownership are growing, what do you think that us being in the real estate community can do to bring more agents into the real estate industry, to bring more
Well,
Hispanic agents into the real estate industry?
I think. I think something that we need to, again, this is my personal opinion. Everything that I'm saying here is my personal opinion. I do think that something that we need to really understand is that we, as a community, we are not monolithic, right? There's all this diversity within ourselves, and it's a diversity that only comes from where we come originally geographically, but also has to do with our relationship to this country. There are many of us that are multi-generationally here. Again, there are many of us in which the families were in territories that now are part of the United States that we're not, and so they've been here for generations longer than you know than some other populations have been. And then there are some of us that came here from other countries more recently. I might have come here 27 years ago, but there are some people trying to enter the business or that are in the business that just came here 5 years ago. So there is a difference as to what we bring into a business that relies heavily, or that at the core is your sphere. If every time that we enter in every person that enters into this business realizes very rapidly that your business is built by really working your network, and by enhancing and promoting your business through your network, because then that network turns around and says, okay, I have this possibility for you, I have this. And if you're strategic, you continue to really utilize those opportunities to get more opportunities. But really the core, unless you are very, very lucky, which some people are, most of us really begin our careers by communicating very closely to our sphere. And so if you're a brand new person here for 5 years, your sphere is not going to be as expansive and as, let's say, reliable to produce business or to refer business to you as if you've been here, your family's been here for 100 years or 30 years, and you're second or third generation. And so I think that our responsibility for those of us who have experience in the business is to really offer those mentorship opportunities, because those mentorship opportunities provide people with ideas and with information and with strategies to make a better business. So I think we are responsible, as those who have established businesses, to really take on into helping each other enhance our business, and also build kind of like that next generation of agents, which is what is going to bring longevity to our business. And so that is to me one part, and then the other part has to do with more like systemic and macro systems. I think that we need to continue to work and advocate and create opportunities for Latinos and people of color in general to be part of the structures that are decision making structures within the business, whether it is the boards, whether it is corporations, whatever it is. We need further involvement, and we need to, in more depth, get involved with that, because when we are involved in that decision making process, we can really help make a systemic change. So I don't think it is just about participation of Latinos, Hispanics, and people of color in general in the agent pool of the business, but it is also on the leadership part of the business. And then last, I think we need to understand the intersectionality of what we all bring to the table. And we come to the table, not just all of us that are sitting and watching this here. If you're Latino or Hispanic, that's not the only thing that you're bringing to the table. You're bringing the fact that you're a woman. I'm bringing the fact that I'm a gay immigrant Latino man. All those things come to the table, and some of those things actually provide you with certain advantages that other people don't have. And so we have to be aware of those privileges and see how we could really optimize what that offers you as opportunities in order to bring others along with us, and to really come to this consensus that we are only as strong as the other people around us, and understanding that we also have that relationship to other groups that might not seem to be a direct relationship. We certainly have a very strong when it comes to lack of opportunities and all sorts of things. We have that same relationship to other groups, women, African Americans, LGBTQ people. That lack of opportunity just runs along in that fabric. And so it is our responsibility to understand that we bring all those different facets to the table, be respectful, we encouraging, and help each other kind of like come up along and in a better way.
I love your passion, and I love your passion because you mentioned mentor and how you like to help others, and maybe that's why you lead a very successful team in Boston. What is your secret to leading such a successful and powerful team?
My secret is I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to bed at 1. No, I'm kidding. Listen, the team to me is an interesting thing that I think teams are not for everybody, I should say. I think that if you are in the process of creating a team, you should understand what you're getting into, because it's a complicated structure. I think they should be a complicated structure, I should say. And if you're going to join a team, you need to understand what you're getting into, because of that same complicated structure. I would tell you my own story with the team starts 5 years ago. Actually, my senior associate, Josh Carr, my love, is a son to me, or a brother, more of a son. Yeah, I'm much older. I could be his father, so he's a son to me. He came into he is the person because I have been working with that development group that I told you about. We have been working in this building for like a year and a half, and then they came to me with another building, and they said, we want you to do this, will be great for you too, but you need to choose one. We know that you could sell them both if you wanted to, but it's only one of you. And I realized I was leaving business on the table, I was leaving money on the table, and so I realized I need to kind of like restructure myself, and that's how I ended up with my team, with Ricardo Rodriguez and Associates. But the most important thing with a team is the culture of it. It's not always just about that production. It's about the culture. It's about what you're bringing, and it's about what the ultimate goal for you is. For me, the ultimate goal, of course, I want to retain and create as much business as possible. But to me, really, there are two more important things than that. One of them is the opportunity to really foster that new generation of agents. There are some agents, for example, that have left my group, and when I see the production that they have right now, it makes me really proud. I make myself believe that maybe they learn a couple of things from me, and that's helping them do their business. I hope it is true, but it just makes me proud to know that at some point they were part of my group, and that I had an opportunity to really help them figure out who they were to this business. And so that mentorship, and it's really, again, to come back to it, I think is really important. Not only because it makes people better professionals in the long term, but also it allows with that continuity of service to your clients. Nothing worse than a client calling you, and if I answer, the answer is here, and if they call somebody else, the answer is down here, and if they call somebody else, no. It should be this continuous experience for everybody, and so that training is an important component of what I think a good team is. And when you look at some of the top teams in the country, they have that. They have that continuity of everybody doing the business at the same level, and so that there is not a discrepancy between one person and the other one to the client base. And so that's that. I think also that the most important thing for a team, at least for me, is the opportunity for succession. One of the things that is astonishing to me is that you see sometimes agents that have spent 20, 30, 40 years of their lives building this business, very successful business. And when they retire, that business goes into the air. It just goes back into the general pool of people fighting for it, right? And I think that is a lost opportunity for business. We are, at the end of the day, business enterprises, and so we should have a way of having that succession in place. You see it in some teams that are primarily family-based teams, in which parents and kids kind of like take over the business. For those of us who have no kids, we need to find those people to actually eventually take over the business that has taken you decades to build, because we want that longevity. You want that longevity on your business. You don't want it just to go away when you're ready to for your next step in your life. So yeah, but I think that teams are certainly important, and the culture and succession are the two most important things on those structures.
Yes. So your success for career and your passion to help others has opened other doors for you. You're the Global Luxury Ambassador, which is an elite group of the top 18 Coldwell Banker real estate in the world, and you are a member of the International Alliance Group. Uh, how does it feel to be a spokesperson to such exclusive groups? And they're already telling me that we don't have much time, so we have to kind of cut it short, but we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, thank you for reining me in. I talk too much. So going back to the question, the global, being named an ambassador for Coldwell Banker Global Luxury and being invited to be part of the International Luxury Alliance are the two highlights of my entire career. After 16 years of incredible things out there, these two are just the most amazing things. The Global Luxury Ambassadorship to me is extremely significant because the Global Luxury Program is the number one real estate luxury program in the world, like hands down. And so to be one of 18 people from around the world who are given this opportunity to speak about the brand, to talk about our experiences with the brand, to have these communications with all of these agents all over the world, to me is just mind blowing. And then the International Luxury Alliance, just the group alone is incredible. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a group of 60, 65 agents. It's kind of like an invitation group for what I consider top luxury agents in the world. And I mean it, when I walk into that group for the first time, I was like mind blown. Literally legendary names like Jade Mills and the Jill Zader Group and Don McKenna and Vanda and Laurent Demure, and like I could go on and on with all these names of people that are literally powerhouses in this business. Nevertheless, just the luxury market, but in this business, I have taken those two very seriously, because there are opportunities to really learn how the best are doing it, but also because I feel that it's an opportunity to elevate who I am, how I do my business, and represent not only myself but what I stand for in a place that I have never been given an opportunity to do it before. And so I take those two things very seriously. I take them with a lot of honor, with a lot of gratitude, and I take them very seriously, because those are just opportunities I never imagined. It just never occurred to me that I would be invited to do either one of those two. Nevertheless, those two things. So it's really, to me, a motivator to be better in my business and to continue to elevate not only my own personal business but this industry, and hopefully inspire other people to do the same and to continue to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Ricardo. It has been great. It has been my pleasure to interview you and hear about your challenges, your triumph, and your rise to success. I hope your story and experiences have inspired our audience to embrace diversity wholeheartedly, to not be afraid of taking challenges, and to always, always be true to themselves. Thank you.
Marlene, thank you very much. You're always so kind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.